first, the Deputy Tory Party Chair Lee Anderson has exposed just how hapless Home Office bosses are today, but he didn't have to work very hard.
Many people travelling on small boats that's been refused asylum have been sent to a third country or back to their own country over the past 3 years.
I don't think we have. I
think we'll write to the committee with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
That's staggering. That's actually
staggering.
Okay, then let's do it for the last year.
I don't have a number for non-Albanian, non-FNOs.
Perhaps they might be able to help you.
Let's do last week then.
Do we have any figures about anything?
It's very rare that I'm speechless. How can you go to a meeting about that on the issue that the country cares most about and not have the answer to those questions? Well, I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined by the man himself. Lee, tell us about that showdown.
It got worse. It was worse before, Patrick, and worse after. We had 2 hours of these two. Well, it's like Laurel and Hardy in colour. They were shuffling the papers around, scratching their heads, didn't have a clue. I don't think in the whole 2 hour session, Patrick, they answered one single question correctly. It was always, we're going to write to you, we don't have that information on hand. Yet they got two assistants behind them with the laptops who could have got that information quite easily. It was shocking. It was an insult to the Home Affairs Select Committee. When you're going to meet MPs at the committee, you should know your brief, you should have the facts, you should have the figures, you should do your homework. It was amateurish, it was awful, and quite frankly, they should be ashamed of themselves.
They also, I believe, couldn't tell us the exact amount of money that's going to continue to be sent to Rwanda, because, by the way, we're still paying for that. I just find that an insult, actually, to the British people. I mean, does that look to you like people who really sense the urgency about mass migration and illegal immigration?
Well, it looks like that, they've not learned it, they don't know the brief, Patrick, but it looks like they're not bothered. I mean, when you're turning up to a meeting, and bear in mind, these meetings are screened live, so anybody, anywhere on this planet can watch that meeting live. And to say that they're Home Office officials on massive salaries and they can't answer. They weren't even difficult questions, they were simple questions.
Should they be sacked?
Well, that's not for me to say, but if I run a private business and I had 2 employees like that, they probably would be working out in car park.
If you went to a job interview and you responded to questions like that, you'd never get the job?
Never get the job, no. I mean, on that performance, I said to a colleague today, it was like a couple of YTS trainees 30 years ago on the first day at work. They didn't have a clue. They got their heads at their, the heads up the backside, I think, Patrick.
One of them's been knighted, I think.
Yeah, got knighted for services to, I don't know what.
Open borders, possibly, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, Lee, obviously, you're at the centre of a political storm, or at least you were, anyway, after your appearance on this very show last week, where you told me that illegal migrants should possibly be sent to the Orkney Islands in Scotland, right? The reaction from some quarters was furious. So Orkney and Shetland's MP, Alistair Carmichael, said, this is not a serious proposition. I would be astonished if Lee Anderson could even find Orkney on a map. His remarks show inhumanity towards desperate and vulnerable people and disdain towards island communities to boot. And even the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, and Commons Speaker Penny Mordaunt were forced to brush off your idea. What's so bad about your Orkney Islands suggestion, Lee?
Well, I don't know what's bad with the Orkney Islands. My dad served there in an exemplary military career back in the day. It's a long way away, but, if Birmingham, if Nottingham, if Derby, if Leicester, if Sheffield are good enough to send illegal migrants, then what's up the Orkneys or any other island or any part of this the Great British Isles, Patrick? I don't see what the problem is. I know what the problem is. People like this MP, I don't even know his name is.
Carmichael.
Alistair, he doesn't want them there. He's quite happy to have illegal migrants in the towns and villages around where we are, but when it's in their own backyard, despite bleating on all the time about we should accept more, they don't want them in their own backyard.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I mean, obviously, Alistair Carmichael's not here to defend himself, but when you look at Scotland as a whole, he's a Liberal Democrat, obviously Scotland under the SNP. They are not taking anywhere near the kind of numbers, despite doing things like Humza Yousaf calling for us to throw our arms around Gaza. I find that strange. I've just about got time for another one that I'm pretty sure is going to get you going there. Ursula von der Leyen has astonishingly claimed that the next generation will, quote, fix our mistakes and rejoin the European Union. The EU president thinks the UK goofed it up when it comes to Brexit, and the country is now on a direction of travel towards rejoining, Lee.
So the generation that fixed the problems in Europe, Patrick, was my granddad's generation. He put a British Army uniform on, left the pits in Nottinghamshire in 1939 or 1940, whenever it was. He went to fight the Nazis. He went all across North Africa, through Sicily, through Italy, seen some horrible things. That was the generation that fixed the problems in Europe. She needs to shut up.
Right, OK. Do you think that in our lifetime we will end up back in the European Union?
I hope not, because if we do, I'm moving to Orkney Isles.
Are you?
Yes, definitely.
I mean, there's a certain MP who might have you'd say that, you know, you were probably offending...
Well, that'll teach him, won't it?
OK, so if you turn up on his... So if we rejoin the European Union, you will deliver yourself...
I'm going to live in the Orkney Isles and stand for Parliament in the Orkney Isles.
Well, there we go. Lee Anderson, thank you very, very much.